We used data from the Public Policy Institute that they had on where the undocumented population lives. We used that information, overlaid it on zip code information that we had over a map of our field offices to determine which geographic location we are going to be impacted by where the undocumented folks live. Over 55% of the undocumented immigrants live in the specific areas of Southern California, San Jose, and San Diego, and that is where these temporary offices will be located. And that's where the sites of the largest undocumented population. In the Central Valley, we are replacing our current Fresno field office. It will have twice the size of the lobby, twice the size of, more parking space, and more terminals to have more employees to process additional transactions and the increased customer workload. We're also renovating a lot of our offices so that everything will be ready in 2015, so that we will have no offices closed for renovation, so we can serve the undocumented population and our current customers. We're going to add more staff in our field offices. We're going to be hiring approximately over 800 employees that will infill. We have current capacity in our current field office infrastructure to hire more folks. That's why the reason why we're only setting up 4 temporary facilities. In our offices, we are going to propose that we're going to do appointment only so that we can monitor our workload, because we have to manage the new customer base and the current customer base. So we're going to, for original driver's license, an appointment only in our current field office infrastructure. And the 4 temporary offices, we're going to allow walk-ins in addition to appointment only for original driver's license. And we're going to ask for original appointment only for original driver's license, whether you're 16, wanting to get your license the first time, out-of-state driver wanting to get a California driver's license, or wanting to get an AB60 type of license. And this will just be for a period of time until our volumes and workload go back to normal levels. We are also expanding our current appointment system from 45 days to 90 days so that we can offer more appointments so we can manage our workflow. Let's see. In addition, we're looking at offering extended hours and Saturday service, and we're currently working on that plan right now. We have been doing a lot of outreach. We've been meeting with the Mexican consulate. We've also been meeting with different advocacy groups and doing outreach, getting information out on how to prepare for applying for a license. We've been sending the message out to Study Now so that we can improve the passage rate for this population. We're also getting information out on getting documents that you can get today so that you can prepare when we actually publish the regulations. Our regulations are in draft. We've working through them, and we're that close to that. We have practice exams available on our website. We have the handbook in 9 different languages. We have the written test in 31 different languages. We're getting the message out right now to prepare as best you can so you can be successful when you come to the DMV to apply for a license. That's pretty much what we're working on. We're also preparing our staff. So in terms of the new customer flow that we're going to expect, we are preparing our staff for training. We're going to train our staff and the new staff on what the regulations are going to require for identity documents and residency documents. We're also doing training for our staff in terms of cultural diversity and sensitivity and disability awareness and coping with change, and also our managers and supervisors are going to be required to attend effective change management course. So we've been doing a lot to get ready to implement AB60. We are very proud of being able to do this for the state of California.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions? Ms. Campos?
Thank you for that thorough presentation. And so I just have a few follow-up questions just to have clarification on some of the things that you did present. You did talk about the different sites that are going to be implemented, and you named LA, San Jose, San Diego, and
Lompoc.
It was brought to my attention, we did a little bit of internal contacts with people that work with immigrants within the California, and one of the areas that came up was they felt that there needed to be something within the Merced area. So was there, and I heard your presentation, you guys talked to a lot of people, used zip codes and where you thought that would be the higher population to capture individuals so that they can get a driver's license. So is there a plan that if for some reason you start to see that there is a higher need to move people, help me understand that?
So we have Fresno. We're currently building a new office. They're replacing the current office. We'll have additional space for additional employees, bigger lobby, and more customer space. So that we'll be able to intake more customers there. Also, in the field offices that we have around Merced, Merced, Madera, we have additional capacity to put more employees in those offices, and we are doing that also. So in those offices that we have identified, we do have ability to hire more employees and put them in those windows. So we do have capacity there.
Okay. And then just another question, since you talked about you do have the capacity to put staff in different locations, do you have the capacity to move people if we find out
Yes.
as we go on that for some reason San Diego seems to have
Yes.
lines wrapped around the corner and not the capacity of the infrastructure? Do you have people that are able to be mobile?
Yes, we have. We actually have been working on a plan for our employees that we're going to have folks that are going to be on travel crews, and they're going to be packed, ready to go on a moment's notice. We need to move them throughout the state. We're going to have a group of employees ready to go to move if we see that we need additional help in a certain office in a certain area.
And then you talked about outreach. Is there a budget for outreach for? How are you handling that so that people?
We've been doing
know?
a lot with the Mexican consulates. We've done outreach in the Southern California, Santa Barbara, Oxnard, Santa Maria. We did Fresno. We've got a lot scheduled up for in the month of April, and we go out and we. Lizette Mata, who works for us, is heading that up. Also, we have 170 field offices located throughout the state. We have regional managers, we have administrators, we have 8 located throughout the state, and our field office employees. So we are partnering with different the consulates and advocacy groups and actually going out and doing outreach. And we do it in the evenings, we do it on the weekends, and actually we've been going out. We do have.
Do you have pamphlets or?
Yes, we have. Actually, have. I didn't bring one. I'll have to get one for your
Oh, well,
office.
I'd
But we
appreciate
have the 9 handbooks in the different languages. We have sample tests in English and Spanish. We actually are getting them printed in the different languages in the handbooks. They're actually in the back of the handbooks in the language. And also we have a flyer that we have ready that we've been passing out, which is study, prepare, get us the documents that you can get from your home country if you don't have, for example, a baptismal certificate, anything that you may not have that could prove your identity that you think you might be able to get. Go and get those now. So that's the messaging that we've been sending out, and actually we've had a really good partnership with the Mexican consulates.
So I think that's a great tool, and I don't know what the capacity is. I'd like to have one, and I'm sure that once my colleagues hear me saying that I'd like to have one to be able to take it back and know what I can do as a member to inform my community. I don't know what that capacity is, but I think that you have a very secure plan to do outreach by going through the council.
Yes, we are working on a communication plan. We have, we will send to any district office materials that you would need. We have that available. We've ordered additional material because we know we're going to be passing a lot out. Also, I met with Bishop Soto last Friday, and he would ask DMV to partner with the diocese to additionally get out to the diocese, and he was concerned I don't have enough staff, and I said I have 4,000 employees in the field and 170 offices, and I said they are waiting and willing to participate in any outreach, and because he feels that this undocumented community is very concerned and they do need information, and the church is a trusted source, and he was very happy that we offered our assistance to go out to the parishes.
Oh, good. Well, you've thought of every angle. One of the other questions that I had that we talk about fee and how to sustain certain fees. Will this new program be the same fee for anyone else that we currently, or is there going to be a few dollars more or less? Or
currently the fee is $33 for
Yes.
original driver's license, and at this point that's the fee. A final determination has not been made yet.
Okay, thank you. And then you did talk about the different documentation that individuals have to show to be able to apply. Is that will that list be expanded? Where are you at with that? Where is it in the process?
We have our regulations. We've drafted them. They're under review. So we have identified documents that we will accept. We have identified a different, it may be one or two documents. If you don't have this, it may be a combination of documents. So we've listed those. We've talked to the different consulates and looked at consular cards. So we've looked at the Mexican consular card. We actually met with the foreign ministry. They walked us through security features of their card, the voter identification card. So we've looked at different consular cards. And so we've going through a vetting process. And so in terms of what we will accept.
Okay. And when do you anticipate that process to be completed? You said it's in the process right now for review?
Yeah, it's going through the formal review process, regulations, so DMV to the agency, so it's under review right now. Hopefully, we're looking, within the next month or so to get those published for public comment.
And then I'm going to go back to the fee one more time, just because I think that I don't want the community that is undocumented to be hit with a fee that is twice, or they're planning for $33. So I think that it would be helpful for us to really understand what that fee will be sooner than later.
Okay.
I think it's important because, like anything, people plan, and this is an expense for any individual. And so and if it does go up, I'd like to understand why it's going up.
Okay, I'll take that back with me.
Thank you. And that's all I have right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Please.
Jeremy Fress with the Legislative Analyst's Office. Our office has raised two concerns with the administration's proposal. The first being that, as the department states, they anticipate about 1.4 million individuals to apply over the next 3 years. And this is based on two assumptions. The first assumption being that the eligible population is 2.5 million individuals in the state of California, and that 55% of these individuals will apply over the next 3 years. And while we find that these assumptions are based on the most up-to-date and valid data sources, we also find that at this time it's really impossible to know exactly how many people will come in and apply for a license. And so in order for the legislature to have the information it needs to appropriate the right amount of resources to the department to implement AB 60, we recommend expanding the current reporting requirements on the department, and so requiring the department to report on the number of individuals that apply for a license under the provisions of AB 60, the location of those applications, and the workload associated with those applications in order to appropriate the correct amount of resources moving forward. We also note that the proposed provisional budget bill language would allow the Department of Finance to augment this budget item by any amount with notification to the Joint Legislative Budget Committee, but the current budget already includes a process to allow a department to increase their resources for any unanticipated expenses. Therefore, we find that this proposed budget bill language is not necessary, and we recommend the legislature reject the proposed budget bill language. Thank you.
Can I ask you a question? I did ask them about the fee. Did you all take that into consideration as well, the fee, $33 to apply? Is that what you based it on, or are you anticipating that it may need to go up, or did you even look at that?
Well, the department or the administration can change the fee, as you've stated, change it from the original amount. It's our understanding that their current plan is to not change the fee from the normal fee for a driver's license, but in recommending more information on the workload associated with the AB license under AB 60, we feel that information would help determine if a change in fee would be necessary. That is to say, if the workload is much higher per transaction.
And in rejecting what you're asking, when do you, so you get this data and you have this flexibility, what is the time frame for you to be able to adjust it or think about whether we have to move one way or the other? I guess my question is, I don't want there to be so much time that goes in between that we're not able to service the constituency that need the service.
Right. And the budget item that we're referring to includes $15 million that the department can can increase their budget item with, and if that is not sufficient, the administration can come forward with a supplemental bill to also increase the amount of resources under this budget item. So there is currently a process in place for any anticipated expenses.
Is it correct that the budget assumes that the fee does not go up?
That is correct.
Okay. And I would point out that the staff recommendation here is to allow the department to continue to have flexibility, because there is a certain amount of unpredictability in terms of how this is all going to unfold. And so I think there's a difference of opinion there, but still an intention to make sure that this program works. And I'd like to compliment the department, Director Shimoto. Department of Motor Vehicles continues to be the one agency that gets the most compliments from my constituents in terms of its customer service. It really does shine. So I just want to pass that on to you on behalf of my constituents. And
Thank you.
I suspect that's reflected throughout the state. That, of course, you probably know is a turnaround from years ago when the DMV didn't have quite the stellar reputation, and people grumbled a lot about, much as we grumble about some other departments today. But I think that as an example, you really do shine, and I want to compliment you on that. The implementation of the AB 60 program is clearly important, and it's important that it unfold in a way that is workable. So I'm glad that you have done the extensive planning that you've done. I do want to make sure that as things unfold, it appears as though you've gone the extra mile in asking for the budget allocation for the number of people that you anticipate will be necessary. But there is a certain amount of uncertainty about what's going to happen. So I want to make sure that you are out ahead of that, and if you need to come back to this committee, to the legislature for additional budget allocations, that you are thinking ahead rather than being reactive.
Definitely.
One other thing, I did want to ask about AB 1637, which you may be familiar with. This is Assemblymember Frazier's bill that was a different number last year, but was a bill of his last year as well, that would provide for a veteran's driver's license or identification card. I'm a co-author on that bill, and it just seems to me that since we're beginning to work on the AB 60 implementation, that it might make sense to implement both of these programs at the same time, since they both involve reconfiguring cards or creating a new card. But you're in the process of thinking that kind of thing through right now. So I'm wondering if you can respond to that, but I'd like to suggest that you return on or before May 1st with a plan for implementation and how that would work if the committee were to direct you to do so.
Okay. So currently, Robert Rooney, who's my legislative director, has been in discussions with Assemblymember Frazier's staff and I think your staff regarding the specifics of the bill. So that is under discussion in terms of the process of how the verification would occur with the veteran status. So we're working through that process and procedures in terms of how that would occur. So we were dialoguing with the staff regarding the bill. We currently have no position on the bill, but we are talking to find out more about how it would work if it was in terms of presented and moving forward. So we have that dialogue going on right now in terms of whether it would be going to a DMV field office, going to a veteran service organization, working out those specifics and how we would verify and identify this is in true as fact as a veteran. So we need to work out those specifics. So we are dialoguing with staff.
So, in the context of that dialogue, do you think it makes sense to wrap this into the programming that you're doing now?
No, we would like to keep that separate. We have to do a lot of different programming for AB6. We're programming our appointment system to expand the time from 45 to 90 days. We have to do programs specifically for the AB60 type of license, and so this programming would be separate. We would have to discuss if there was a designation, where the designation would go and be on a card, and that's different programming because we wouldn't combine the programming together. We would have to be able to track that separately. So we couldn't just easily fold that in to this AB60. We would have to keep everything separate.
Well, I don't want to belabor the point here this morning, but would you be able to come back by approximately May 1st with just a little more, not a little more, but more information
Yes.
about how that kind of implementation might work?
Okay, we can do that.
In a way that if we were to choose to do so, we could move that program forward in this budget cycle?
Okay, yeah, because we would have to determine the specifics of how this would be implemented, and then determine the cost, and then determine the program that would be required, and then we have to get AB60 done first.
Understood. Well, I hear you saying it has to be done first. I continue to think that it may be possible for you to do it simultaneously. So if you could give consideration to that and come back with more information by May 1st, that would be great.
We will go back and finish the dialogue with the staff and nail down the process and then the costing and get a report back to you.
Fantastic. Thank you. Ms. Campos?
And I'm going to come back to this after listening to the last speaker when I asked about the fee. I know that he said that's what it's in the budget is for $33. I think what I'm not hearing from you is if you can confirm that, or if there's a short time frame, and you can let me know what the time frame is, what you know what the real number will be if it's not 33. So I'm going to keep pushing on that because I think it is so crucial. We're not talking about 100 people. We're talking about a huge population in California that need to start preparing for this. So if I hadn't asked the follow-up question, I'm thinking about it that I need to know from you as the director what's the time frame, or if you can confirm that 33 is what people would be expecting.
Currently today, that's what the fee is. That is under discussion, and a final determination has not been made, but when it is made, we will definitely communicate it back to you if the fee changes.
And do you have a timeline on when those discussions will
They're ongoing
conclude?
right now. The discussions are ongoing right now.
So you don't have a timeline?
I don't have a time frame, but as soon as a determination is made, we'll follow up and get back to you.
Okay.
All right, are there any other questions from the dais? Is there any public comment on this item?
Mr. Chair, Randy Cheek with SEIA Local 1000 and a veteran, and I just want to say that we're in support of the department's proposal.
Thank you. All right, if there's nothing else, then I'll thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
And I
Mr.
would
Gordon?
move
Oh, yes, thank you.
to approve as budgeted issue number 1, implementation of AB60.
Thank you both. Thank you for saving me, Mr. Gordon.
Thank you.
If there's no discussion, then we'll move to a vote on that.
Bloom?
Aye?
Campos? Gordon? Patterson?
Thank you, that passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll move on now to California High-Speed Rail Authority. Good morning, everyone.
Morning, Mr.
There are few issues that have consistently generated more controversy than high-speed rail construction since the financing was approved by 52% of the voters statewide nearly 6 years ago. High-speed rail promises to revolutionize how we travel, connect communities in ways that we didn't imagine previously, and significantly reduce our carbon footprint as well as employ hundreds of thousands of Californians in the process. At the same time, the magnitude, the complexity, and the cost of the project have invited skepticism, concern, and opposition. Now, the legislature is being asked to approve funding in addition to what the voters have already authorized, so I think it's incumbent upon the authority, as I believe it has, to and will continue to do, to demonstrate that there is a plan to make this a viable system. And I would say a viable plan to make this a viable system. For example, people need to know that the high-speed rail line is part of a transportation system that will connect seamlessly to local systems so that everyone will benefit. Folks should have assurances that the authority will be transparent and accountable by providing details on system costs, realistic funding options, construction or implementation updates, and next steps. And of course, everyone needs to know that the system in the long term is going to be sustainable. I want to take a moment to thank Christian Griffith for the agenda that he's prepared this morning, because I think that each item helps us to understand some of the important, outstanding issues that have been expressed to me by my constituents, and I think that are burning issues here in the legislature. So, Christian, thank you for that. And I look forward to this phase of our continuing dialogue. Did anyone else have comments that they'd like to make? So again, for those of you who may want to give public comment, we'll reserve that until after issue 9. And welcome. Please begin your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Jeff Morales, the High-Speed Rail, and I'm joined by Russ Fong, our Chief Financial Officer. I want to join also in commending the staff for the memo. I think it does a very good job of capturing the status of key elements of the program and outlining the issues, and it saves you having to listen to me say a lot of those things. So I think that's a good thing, too. I also want to note...
But I do want you, Mr. Morales, to take your time this morning. This is the main event, and we want to spend an appropriate amount of time with it.
Yes, sir. I think it was important you touched upon the transformative nature of this program, because it does help to keep that in context as we look at the issues. And there has never been a transformative investment in this state or anywhere that didn't go through the same types of issues that we're going through. We often talk about the Golden Gate Bridge having 2,000 lawsuits filed against it in the 1930s. The fact that the University of California system and the state water system each passed by single votes in the legislature. The types of issues that we're facing, again, are not unique. It's important that we deal with them and deal with them forthrightly, but I think you're putting that in context is important. I'd like to speak to the first item on the agenda, issue 2, which is the draft business plan, and then we can go through each item as you prefer.
And I think I'll invite my colleagues to ask questions as we go along. Sure. After each item, if you don't mind.
Yes. I'll just give a quick background. The 2014 draft plan builds on the 2012 business plan, which was the basis for the legislature's approval of appropriation of funds to begin construction, as you noted. That plan set in place a new direction, which was driven by the board, which was manned by new members appointed by Governor Brown and by new management. Probably the most significant shift in focus was to look at high-speed rail in the context of a statewide rail modernization program, integrated with local and regional services, all of them working together. That new approach was the key to freeing up the connectivity funding that was approved by voters in Proposition 1A, something that had been impossible in previous years. Together with the funding for the initial construction in the Central Valley, this statewide program is advancing $13 billion of investment in transit and rail improvements from Sacramento to San Diego. As several of the members know, the Caltrain electrification is moving forward now, on pace to be completed in 2019, a project that was sought for decades and is now happening as part of this program. Metrolink in Southern California has become the first commuter rail system in the country to comply with federal mandates for positive train control systems, an important safety initiative, aided by Prop 1A funding. And PTC, positive train control, is also being implemented in San Diego and on the state's 3 Amtrak lines. In San Francisco, the Transbay Transit Center is under construction, along with the Central Subway project, which is receiving funding through this program. And projects like the Regional Connector in Los Angeles, which is tying together the subway lines there and allowing people to move from the west side to the east side and back, those projects are moving forward as well. As I noted, the 2014 draft plan builds on the 2012 plan. We have updated ridership and fare box revenue forecasts, updated those with input from and review by external experts, ranging or including the International Union of Railways, the significance there being we have gone out and spent extensive time with actual operators of high-speed rail systems around the world, having them vet our processes, our numbers, our figures to ensure that we're using reliable data and coming up with reasonable conclusions. The Federal Government Accountability Office did an almost year-long review of our processes and gave us a clean bill of health on all of those and reaffirmed that, in fact, our estimates are reasonable. The plan reaffirms that commitment to the statewide rail modernization program. Again, as you noted, Mr. Chairman, the importance of integrating high-speed rail with local and regional systems. And of course, we're underway with the design and construction of the backbone of the high-speed system that will connect all of the state's population centers for the first time, linking the Bay Area with the Central Valley and with the Los Angeles region. The plan also incorporates new requirements that were included in SB 1029, the 2012 Budget Act. And these speak in part, Mr. Chairman, to the transparency issue that you mentioned and the importance of providing timely and regular information to the legislature and the public. SB 1029 required a number of separate reports to the legislature on our program, all of which have been submitted on time and in accordance with the provisions of the law. With regard to the plan, we are now in the public comment period on the draft plan. That began on February 7th. We will present our proposed revisions based on comments that we have received to the board next week at its meeting, and then we'll submit the final revised plan to the legislature by May 1, which is the statutory deadline. With that, I'm happy to take questions on this item.
Thank you.